If you could turn up the mic, thank you. Calling the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Kat, could you take the roll, please?
Brian Boyle.
Here.
Kim Farrow.
Here.
Steve Finnegan.
Here.
Amy Gentile. Barbara Kishka.
Present.
Sheila Lewis.
Here.
Sean O'Neill.
Here.
Kristen Savage.
Thank you. If you could all rise for the pledge. Before we start with the rest of the agenda, I would like to let the community know that Mr. George Stokinger has passed away. Mr. Stokinger had many, many years of service to the Timberlane and Hampstead school districts as the assistant treasurer and treasurer for those two school districts. He also led this district as a business administrator for 14 years in the SAU. Our heartfelt sympathies to his wife, who also worked for the district, and other members of his family, and I'd just like to have a moment of silence in remembrance of Mr. Stokinger. Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. The first set of minutes is from June 24th. Is there a motion to accept those minutes? So moved. Was that Barbara that made that motion? Barbara made the motion, Sean seconds. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor? 5. All opposed? Abstaining? 1. 501. I'm sorry, I'm just looking for the next. That is the July 5th. It's the July 15th meeting. It says July 5th. It should be July 15th meeting.
July 15th.
Correct. The agenda says July 5th.
Oh.
July 15th. Looking for approval of the July 15th minutes.
So moved.
Second. Jill makes the motion. Brian seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Moving on to delegates and individuals. I have 10 delegates and individuals presently. I do have the list here. I will call your name, and if you can come forward to the mic, I would appreciate it. I have directed the technical people to shut the mics after 3 minutes, to be fair to everybody. So we will move on from there. So the first person I have is Melissa Marr from Plaza.
Hi everybody, hope you have a good summer, rainy one at that. Some of you may remember me. I spoke pretty passionately about my 3-year-old needing to go to school, and I want to thank you. He did get into the summer program. He got about 2 hours of speech therapy over this summer school time. You know, they're severely understaffed over there, I'm sure you all know, and we do have a very, very long way to go with his therapies. And just like him, I'm sure there's so many other kids that are very far behind, and they're going to have to work really hard. And I will say the TLC staff and faculty was amazing. They've all been so super helpful and nice and kind and understanding. So that was such a great experience. You know, I wish that he could get a little bit more. So we'll help push for that as the year goes through. But a lot of that will be integral in how the school year goes. Part of me feels like I'm standing here It's like deja vu because I feel like I'm saying the same things I said exactly a year ago, so it's a little bit bizarre to me that we're here tonight having these similar conversations. Except we know so much more now. I re-enrolled my 2 older kids into the district this year, thinking that everything would be easy sailing, somewhat more normal than what I feel like we're anticipating, which I hope is not happening. But I feel like there will always be variants forever of this virus. What we know now is that kids don't seem to be the spreaders, young kids, the smaller ones. They don't seem to be doing, or they seem to be doing very well with this virus. For the majority, I know there are always outliers. I'm very aware that people do get sick from this, so I'm not saying this isn't real. But I don't think that masking the smaller kids is going to be the answer. I've been called a lot of names this year for speaking my truth, and I can accept that. That's fine. I'll always stand up and say what I believe in. But I know that avoiding germs forever isn't the answer. Nobody wants to be sick. And we don't want our little people to get sick either. But they have to. By nature, they have to get sick to develop their immune systems. And we can't deny nature. The longer we put this off, the longer the long-term ramifications are going to be. They're going to get more sick. If they don't have an immune system for years and years, because that seems to be this cycle of what we're seeing, we're looking at years. This is now the 3rd school year that this virus is kind of interfering with. And I don't want us to be here every year or every Christmas or every summer before school starts, or just pleading to let our kids go to school, or pleading to take the masks off of our kids.
Thank you. Len Angelo from Plastow.
Good evening. I'm speaking to you first as a parent of a 3-year-old that's going into the Timberlake system, and as a teacher. I'm not really sure how popular it is to have a teacher up here saying that we don't believe kids should have masks on, but I'm one of them. I've worked in a middle school. I've worked in a middle school with over 850 kids, and I've been teaching for 15 years. And I'm very, very passionate what I do. And this past year has been so difficult for me and every teacher that's in the building. And having kids masked in front of you every day, like they're in prison, is crazy. These kids they start off in kindergarten at 5 years old. I work the summer program, so a kid came to me today as the summer program ended and said, Mr. Angelo, when are we going to stop wearing masks? So I said to him, I don't have an answer for you, bud, but I'm going to find out. And I'll tell you something, having 25 to 30 kids a year sitting in front of you with masks on, and they can't smile, are you kidding me? These are kids. As a teacher, I have a choice. I can wear a mask. I'll put a mask on. If I have a mask and they say it works, you know what? I have nothing to worry about. These are kids. These kids need to learn, they need to smile. These kids at recess are lined up outside in masks, standing on circles. It's sickening. These kids eat lunches in a classroom. They have to sit 6 feet apart. Okay? I don't work in Timberlake, but I work in a district. I want to just keep quiet, but I do work in a district, and it's sickening. This is not politics. You guys listen to us tonight. I appreciate your time, but really consider of what we're voting on tonight, because these kids are kids. They deserve to learn. They deserve to smile every day, run around, and working in middle school also. They're not socially distanced. If you think they are, you're fooling yourself. Okay, they're running around, they're high-fiving, they're pushing, they're just having fun as kids. That's what they do. So I ask you guys, stop this insanity. Let the kids go to school without masks. Thank you.
Bonnie Bali, Danville.
Okay, so hi, I'm here. I'm a member of Danville. I'm here for my daughters. Grace, can you wave? Hi. So I'm here for them, and you guys are here for us, okay? So I know a majority of you were on our side, but what worries me is that a few of you were not. At this late in the game, you're still voting no, okay? I had another friend call me and say, Bonnie, I just called the school, and they said, well, they have to follow whatever the CDC says. That's not at all what's happening, okay? I have to reassure you that you are not, this is not a medical advisory board. That we, the parents, are asking, a high majority. I have yet to see one parent come and say, wow, thank you so much for your continued masking and social distancing. I haven't seen that. So I'm just reiterating, because I know what the news is saying. I know Salem District just put it into place again, and we're here right now saying no way, no way. Okay? Thank you so much for your time.
David Kiley Atkinson.
David Kiley Atkinson. I seek truth based on observational evidence, not theoretical possibilities, vague hyperbole nor fear. Many of you have heard, read, or may even hear tonight about recent case spikes, deadly variants. Suddenly we have large percentage increases without context, widespread appeals for safety, morality, patriotic virtue at the expense of basic human rights, and attempts to shame people into conformity. You may have heard cases are trending 84% in a week. Our children are not safe and should be protected from each other. But you will not hear that since April 15th, the date the New Hampshire mask mandate was lifted, the mortality rate is down 63%. Cases are actually down 76%. You will not hear that there are only 33 hospitalizations in New Hampshire right now from COVID-19, 4 times lower than April. You will not hear if any kids are hospitalized at all. You will hear positivity rates spiked to 5.7% in Rockingham County. But you won't hear that positivity rates are still lower than when the mask mandate was lifted on April 15th. You will not hear about the context or the drivers. You will hear about safety layers, prevention strategies, masks, vaccines, lockdowns, our patriotic duty in saving lives, but you won't be provided with comparative data from neighboring communities that did not mask, nor any statistical differences in student cases or outbreaks. You'll fail to find a masking precedent for other serious, highly infectious illnesses, showing low or zero student mortality rates, like influenza or pneumonia, nor the countless censored studies showing harm from these measures. Yes, kids and young adults will continue kissing, hugging, sharing food, playing sports, etc., as maskless community contact from these activities outside of school continues. But you will hear the Delta variant is ripping through the country, transmits easier, hits kids harder. But you won't hear that the Delta is 3 times less lethal than the Alpha and is more like a cold or a sinus infection. Nor will you hear about dropping hospital rates and the rareness of symptoms in children from all strains and a statistical mortality rate of 0%. The reasons for vague hyperbole in our country escapes me, but we presently find ourselves in a cult of fear. It simply states, I'm scared, therefore you must be mandated to be scared too. This impacts educational opportunities and eviscerates national rights, amazingly with no due process. Before the kids unnecessarily miss more school, I ask that we please listen to common sense. If you're sick, stay home. If you're scared, turn off the TV, do your homework on COVID and the children. If you're even tempted to mask kids, I implore you to find one iota of proof that any healthy child is ever infected or caused the death of any person on the planet Earth. Thank you.
Kevin Doobie, Danville.
Thank you. Over the past 16 months, we've experienced what I believe was one of the biggest concerns of our founding fathers. They knew man was imperfect and government of men had the potential to become misguided, corrupt, and abuse the position of power. and violate the rights of the very people it was designed to represent. If our founding fathers were on a board or another government institution, and these ideas of forcing, masking, or possibly vaccines were brought before them, they would have dismissed it immediately, because the foundation of their law had personal accountability. No man or woman has the right to violate or trespass on the rights of another man or woman. So the illusion that board policies, RSAs, or even local laws take precedence over constitutional rights is not the case, and that's backed by several Supreme Court decisions. Even more importantly than that, we're all born with unalienable rights, not given by man and certainly not to be taken by man. One of these, of which is bodily autonomy, our right, and only our right, to make informed risk-assessed decisions on our health and the health of our children. The Constitution doesn't give us this right, but it does add another layer of protection for it. One of the reasons I think these rights are so blatantly violated is the protection of qualified immunity and plausible deniability. I am informing you that if you violate these rights, you will be doing so knowingly, which should eliminate your qualified immunity protection. Because it is my understanding that it protects you if you unknowingly violate somebody's rights. So without the protection, you will be personally held responsible for that. And with the abundance of information out there for the past 12 months that does not support the extreme measures, including forced masking, I was really hoping to see more logical and critical thinking. There were glimmers of it, but nowhere near enough. What is most disturbing to me is our immune system is constantly at war with millions of viruses, bacteria, and toxins, and with the children, the added load of their body and mind struggling to develop. And the idea of forcing masks on them, which creates a starving oxygen level, saturated carbon dioxide levels, and overall a toxic environment within the body, which most of these other threats thrive in, including cancer. And to add to it, the fear, which also suppresses the immune system. So subjecting ourselves or our children to all of these potential risks versus a virus that has a 99.997% recovery rate, that decision should be left to the parents alone.
Stephanie Dewey-Daniel.
Thank you. I'd like the board to provide the documentation that gives you the authority over a person's bodily autonomy. I think a lot of people would like to know the answer to that question. I am here advocating for parental choice and making masks optional, no caveats, for the 21-22 school year. You may hear from other parents advocating for masks, and you may hear from the administration pushing for masking for kids in the fall. However, the pandemic is over. Let me repeat that. The pandemic is over. The Delta variant. Using the Delta variant as a cause for wanting to mask up kids does not constitute another pandemic. The COVID virus mutated as all viruses do. There is nothing particularly striking about this. The Delta variant, in fact, mirrors a cold or sinus infection and is weaker than the COVID strain of last year. In addition, children are not vectors of this virus. On the efficacy of masks and testing data, in February of 2020, Dr. Fauci commented that the typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not effective in keeping out the virus. And just the other day, the current CDC director on 8/3 said, and I quote, "Many face cloths are not effective in reducing the virus movement in or out." As we all know, the PCR tests are no longer being used as the results have been deemed unreliable. The science is not settled, which is reason enough to have masks optional and parental choice only. The current statistics in New Hampshire are this. There are 34 confirmed COVID hospitalizations and 11 suspected hospitalizations. There has not been one child aged 0 to 19 who has passed away, thankfully, in the state of New Hampshire. Interestingly enough, enough, in Alberta, Canada, health officials just the other day removed all restrictions, including masking, and have now started referring to this virus as a mild flu. At the 7:15 school board meeting, Steve Finnegan commented that masks should be a choice of the parents. He stated, and I quote, "For far too long, we have not allowed parents to make those choices, and that has to be a parental choice at this point. To those members on the board who support parental choice, thank you. To those who don't support parental choice, I ask you to get on board. What these parents are asking for is not unreasonable. They're not asking to ban all masks in schools. They simply don't want mandates for their children. They, the parents, are the ones responsible for making medical decisions on their behalf. If other parents are so concerned about this less virulent strain of COVID, to the extent that they want to have their child wear a mask, they should have the freedom to make that decision. Should you as the school board members decide to push for masking children 12 and under, or any segment of the school children, understand this: we will not stop. Myself and these parents behind me, will exhaust every single avenue, up to including additional lawsuits to ensure their parental rights are respected. You do not have the authority to mandate masks for any child in this district. Thank you.
Joanne Toomey, Plastow.
That you go to a restaurant with a mask, but then when you sit down, the virus doesn't come.
I'm just curious what Sheila knows.
Excuse me.
When people are here talking, she's laughing.
Sheila, please don't respond to that. I am going to respectfully request that only the person at the mic is speaking. This is a public meeting. This is not a meeting of the public. I will request a recess should we not keep this under control. Thank you.
I'd like to start by saying thank you to the board. Thank you for voting to remove masks for ESY. For the last 5 weeks, our son went into school and came out of school each day smiling. The best part about it, we got to see his smile, and so did his teachers. He loved going to school, going into school each day. He made new friends, which he cannot stop talking about having play dates with. But most importantly, in the short 5 weeks he was there, he's made documented progress in his speech development and academics. Can you imagine what he could possibly achieve if he had the opportunity to spend an entire academic school year in school in person? I respectfully request that masks be made optional for the 21-22 school year. The progress our kids have made over the past 5 weeks will no doubt be lost if we don't have that option. They will regress academically, emotionally, and socially if we, the parents, are not afforded our right to make the choices which we know to be best for our own children. Thank you.
Laura Roy, Plastow.
I'm going to continue the discussion of masks. I think masks should be optional. I thank those that voted for the last meeting to make masks optional, and if you have already made the reopening plan for this coming school year and it includes a retraction of that vote, I just want you to know that we're not going to stop until our kids have some sense of normalcy and consistency at school, and until you support parents' choice when there are controversial, harmful medical decisions that need to be made. There are a lot of mixed messages out there, published data, unpublished data, studies that show different results, mixed opinions, mixed feelings, different levels of fear, now more than ever. No one has the right answer. It changes daily, and it has completely divided our country all the way down to here, our local schools. So now more than ever, it's extremely important that people use their own judgment and make their own choices of what's best for themselves and their kids. Our state leaders release no guidelines because they know our state and are confident that our local leaders will make the right decisions based on local data. You have to be reasonable, and mask mandates on a low-risk population are not reasonable. Dr. Chan stated that if levels of community transmission remain low entering full school reopening, then you can very reasonably choose to start school without requiring face masks. And if cases rise, then school leaders should strongly recommend wearing masks. So it sounds like they think it should be the parents' choice too. It was brought up at the last meeting that it's been difficult for you all to make these decisions and that there was no help from any level of government, and you're right, and none of you are qualified to make health decisions. You're a school board. So why did you take on that task? Unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures, right? We should have been able to have more input and choice from the beginning, and we didn't, so it has to start now. We all know that our kids have suffered too much in the past year and a half, whether it appears that way on the outside or not, and we can't let this continue. Parents know what's happening with their kids, psychologically, academically, socially, emotionally, and physically. You don't know. You're not there at home with us, and some of you just don't even have school-age kids. You're enabling these kids to make them feel like they are sick and dangerous to society, that they are isolated and not allowed to have normal human interaction, when they are all perfectly healthy little kids and young adults just trying to learn and make new friends. I think you also keep forgetting that kids have been with each other outside of school without masks for a long time, and they're going to continue. So please inform us of what masking them in school does exactly. We should all be grateful that our little state and towns have low to moderate transmission levels, and because of that, the science and data for our state do not support harming our kids and holding them back any longer. There are many other prevention strategies we can use besides masks, like at-home screening, ventilation, hand washing, staying home when sick. Doesn't mean we have to use all of them all the time. So I just want to say that, I just want to ask, when is this going to end? We want answers and we want choice.
Dennis Griffiths, Danville.
My name is Dennis Griffiths. I'm a resident of Danville. Firstly, thank you sincerely to each one of you for serving the community by working on this board. I know it's hard. Because of our toxic political climate, where everything we see and hear is one side or the other, I don't think that all of you are given enough thanks for your commitment. So thank you sincerely. This past school year, my wife, my 14-year-old daughter, and I chose to homeschool specifically because of the mask policy. This year, we hope very, very much that all the kids can rejoin their friends and classmates without restriction. We hope that all these kids will see each other smile again, will participate in school theater, music, sports, everything, all without the constant reminder to be scared of a disease they collectively crush in its tracks. Kids and adults are told to wear a useless, almost certainly dangerous piece of cloth strapped to their face to protect them from a sickness that virtually none of them will ever get sick from. And if they do, will almost certainly survive quite easily. Not opinion, demonstrable facts. I think everyone here would agree that our leadership at nearly every level, along with mostly everyone else, erred on the side of caution when this all began, and rightfully so. After 18 months, we are more divided than ever before. And everyone has a study to point to support their argument. So, it's very safe to say that we can agree that we don't agree. With that in mind, you have a choice to make. You can choose to make masks optional with caveats. With this choice, you hoist an uncertainty across every family in the district. For me, this choice is the same as making masks mandatory. The uncertainty of a policy change at any time simply does not work in the real world. This adds a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety that is completely and unnecessarily completely avoidable and unnecessarily hoisted upon us. For us, this choice would push us again outside of the district. I suspect many other parents will feel the same. Everyone loses in that situation. Or you can err on the side of freedom and personal responsibility. It confirms tonight that masks will be optional with no caveats for the entire year. I am asking you to choose the latter. I am asking on behalf of the many people who could not be here, or may be too intimidated to speak publicly on Mr. Sean O'Neill, Ms. Kim Farah. I'm asking you as your constituent, for whom you represent.
Thank you, sir.
To act honestly and without partiality.
Sir, I'm asking you to cease, please. You have finished your time. I'm asking respectfully that you adhere to the time limit that others have adhered to. Thank you very much. I'm going to take a 5-minute recess here. Sir, this meeting is in recess. Dean, sir, I am going to again ask you to please stop this.
Thank you. But I have come here as a mom. I'm from Sandown, and I have a 8.5-year-old. I came out in very strong support of reopening schools safely last year because it was so critical that my daughter be in school. We didn't start out full time. We started, in school part time. And I'm so grateful for that. Thank you for making that happen. I know from experience that just doesn't happen, and it took a lot of hard work. So I really want to thank the super for, I'm sure, the countless hours and sleepless nights that he had to do to make sure we could open. I want to say my 8.5-year-old bitches less than any person in this crowd, and my child likes to complain. Okay? I like to complain too. I'm getting really sick of all of this. All right? I am here as a parent, as a mom who cares about my daughter and children. Okay? I want her to be safe. I want her in school safely. Okay? We still have the coronavirus, or COVID, whatever. I'm sorry if some of you don't believe that. But I support the choices that you have to make, and there are a whole lot of us parents who do support the board and support the administration and support the teachers. But frankly, we don't come here because this is frightening. I'm scared. I will tell you, I am scared. I am scared of this group. I'm really scared, okay? I'm not scared of COVID. I want my child to be in school safely, but I'm shaking in my shoes right now because I said I'm scared of this group. I'm not scared of COVID. I'm vaccinated.
Excuse me, could you please let the speaker speak?
Listen, right now I'm vaccinated. I'm not really worried about COVID. I'm not worried about it for my husband. I'm not worried about it for me. My child is 8.5. She cannot be vaccinated yet. I don't have that choice. If you send your child who has COVID to school and don't mask them, there is a good chance they are going to spread COVID to others. And who is going to be responsible for ensuring that, okay, this child should be masked because their parents want her masked, but then they don't need to be masked. That's an impossible situation, and you're going to expect like 8-year-olds to go ahead and police themselves on this? I'm sorry, I do see a moment in time when not wearing masks certainly becomes possible. I know a couple months ago, it looked good, and we took our masks off.
Your daughter was at camp today without a mask.
Excuse me. This woman is speaking.
My daughter was at camp today indoors with masks, okay?
Linda Brown, Sandown. Kathleen Blood, Atkinson.
Good evening. I am not here to talk about masks. I was wondering where the school board stood on the title Flight of the Puffin that was brought up at the last meeting. Yes, the book.
That will be discussed in a non-public session.
Okay.
It is a personnel matter.
All right. So it was brought up in the last meeting that the book was listed, or the issue with the book was that it was not in favor of first responders, correct? Okay. But it also, or is it that it's not in favor of first responders, or is the issue that one of the characters is gender non-binary?
I'm sorry, typically during delegates, we don't have a back and forth, and I don't
Okay.
think the board is prepared to answer any
All right.
questions.
So, full disclosure, I am on staff at the high school, and I am the faculty advisor for the GSA, which is the Genders and Sexualities Alliance. And I'm just here to defend a book. It's a book. I can't believe that in this day and age we're talking about banning books and keeping books out of the hands of our students. Clearly, we all have different opinions, and we're all allowed to express our opinions very loudly. But we need to keep in mind that while you have your freedoms, that our students also have their freedoms. And
excuse me, please let the speaker speak.
thank you. So this past year, I've had students who were non-binary students, both who have attempted suicide because of this kind of an attitude. What? Sure, I'm happy to bring them, but I didn't want to interrupt their summer. So I just wanted to make sure that we are not banning books in 2021. And so I'm just making sure that I'll keep at it and making sure that our kids have the freedom to be represented and see themselves in the literature and the things that they consume here at school. When you are not represented, you feel like you don't belong, you feel like you don't exist, and you start to feel like you shouldn't. Say that again. When you feel like you don't belong, you feel like you don't exist, and you feel that you shouldn't. I'm here to speak for a book. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Hanway from Plastow.
Hello. I just want to say that there's been so many books that they've tried to ban for other reasons, so it's like that statement was just a little crazy to me. But I just wanted to say to the school board, thank you for voting on masks optional to start off the school year. I sincerely hope that that continues throughout the year regardless. And if it does not, I will do everything in my power to fight it, because it's an attack on my child's human rights and it's unconstitutional. Not to mention, there's ample evidence that it's not effective and it's not needed. So that's all. Thank you.
Ann Cobb. Sorry, Ms. Cobb, what town are you from?
I'm the Honorable Ann Cobb, thank you very much, and I represent all of New Hampshire. Thank you very much.
I'm asking what town.
I don't have to answer that question, just like you didn't answer this gentleman who addressed you, who you represent, or you're supposed to represent.
Then I'm sorry, I'm not going to allow you to speak.
You're not going to allow me to speak, CCP? You know, this is America, and I will speak anyway because I have a loud enough voice. I don't need a damn microphone.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kopp. The vote of the board at the previous meeting was that only residents of the 4 towns would be allowed to speak. I could certainly ask that the board revisit that vote. Board members, did you want to revisit that vote regarding that only members of the 4 towns be allowed to speak? Thank you very much. Dean, would you please cut the live stream? Update. Are there any questions? Board members, you have in your packet an informational sheet.
Question.
Barbara?
What is the current social distancing policy going into the school year?
Sorry, say that again.
What is the current social distancing policy going into the school year? Is Mr. Pedersen here?
Mr. Pedersen is not here this evening.
But as I understand it right now, it is social distancing or masks, right? After, the one thing I'm concerned about is currently I believe the metrics are a flat number, 50, 100 versus a rate.
Are you asking about social distancing that is covered here in this?
Okay. I didn't see, well, I saw the impact ones, but I didn't see the actual social distancing.
If you look at the executive summary, update to the school reopening plan, 8521, New Hampshire DPHS recommends to maximize physical distancing to the extent possible with an ideal goal of at least 3 feet of separation. I'm fairly certain, Ms. Allaire, that that is the plan, 3 feet of separation. Yes?
Yes, 3 feet.
3 feet. Mr. Callum? Does that answer that question, Barbara?
And it's by rate, correct? And it's by county? The rate in the current county?
You're just asking about distancing. What's now? What is your question?
We had a policy that was based, I proposed it back in, I don't remember. We had it from September about the going at yellow, it went to 3 feet or masks, and then at red, it went to 6 feet, right? And I believe that we changed it to mask optional, so it was, we currently have it, it's always mask optional. But I wanted to make sure the metrics were rate and not a fixed number.
If you, do you have the packet in front of you? See,
I do.
It says executive summary,
I do.
and there are 2 sheets beyond that.
Okay, let me see. I see the criteria. So the 2 tables that say criteria?
Correct.
All right, but that is not our current social distancing policy as I understand it. That's the guidelines.
Those tables are not speaking to social distancing at all. Where do you
Right.
see social distancing on that table?
Okay, so where is the one that says about social distancing?
That's in the executive summary.
In the first page.
On the first page? Okay. Oh. All right, the text that's not.
Bullet 5.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that's the recommendation. That's not necessarily our policy.
Yes, but point 2 on the next page says that we recommend to consult with it.
Okay.
At this point, the district will continue to follow New Hampshire DPHS guidance.
But the board can make local decisions based on local metrics. And what I was going to propose is that we use the maximum rate in any of our towns rather than the Rockingham County.
Okay, you keep mixing 2 different things. Let's talk about, you're asking about distancing. The distancing is 3 feet.
Correct.
Now you are asking to change the metrics in these criteria.
Right. So
if you would like to do that,
okay.
or have the board do that, then we need to see something in writing as to what that would be, and the board needs to have a copy of that so they can review it, and it needs to go to the school administration so that they can compare it here. That's all I'm saying.
So what I'll do is I'll read my proposal, I'll send it to everybody, I'll send it to Kat and you, and then we can perhaps reconsider it at the next meeting.
That's fine.
Fair enough? Okay. So I'm proposing, now that Mr. Pedersen is tracking the COVID metrics by town, I would like to propose we use more local criteria for our social distancing policy. If no town in the district has 50 or more positive cases per 100,000 over 14 days, then we have no mandatory social distancing. If the town with the most positive cases, and Kat, I'm going to send this to you. If the town with the most positive cases per 100,000 is between 50 and 100, then we go to 3 foot 3 foot distancing or masks. If the town with the most positive case per 100,000 is 100 or over, and we are still in person, we go to 6-foot social distancing. So it's pretty much the same thing we had before, it's just using the town metrics rather than the county.
Barbara, could you send that to all of us?
I shall.
Because.
So that's based on 50 per 100,000.
Yeah,
so if a town has, just for instance, 10,000, how many positive cases does that equate to?
50 and 5.
5. So if a town has 5,000, that's 2.5 people.
Yeah.
That is much more restrictive than this guidance. I just want to point that out.
Just to make a point, one of the only thing that this would affect would be what type of classrooms are being implemented. And by that I mean in-person, hybrid, or remote. That's the only thing that this criteria that's currently before us would affect. It has nothing to do with mass. It's only the in-person, which is currently what we have now, with the hybrid and remote were the options that we had before. That's what I believe that this all represents. Is that correct?
That's correct. But what I'm saying is what Barbara's proposing is more restrictive than this.
I would agree.
Okay, I thought it was less restrictive because
I mean,
it's not 50 per, so if you've got 10,000 people, the rate per 100,000 is much less than 50. Let me see if I can. So if you have 50 people who are sick in Plastow, and Plastow has 10,000 people, the rate per 100,000 at that rate is going to be, where's my math?
10x if it's
Yeah, so
5,000.
No,
How about if you're sick, stay home?
Right.
Get back to normal.
Excuse me.
You guys make things so
Would you please stop?
I'm trying to make this less restrictive and more local, and that was my intent.
I understand what your intent was, and that's why I'm trying to point out that what you're doing is having the
opposite of my
opposite
intent.
effect.
Okay, so let's I'll send it around. And
So
we can-
please send it
we'll
around.
figure it out. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Dr. Cotton.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the executive summary is not a plan. It was put together in such a way to bring in different sources. Some of it is CDC, some of it is New Hampshire, DOE, some of it is Health and Human Services in New Hampshire. And just pointing out that the guidance is conflicting at this point in time. We're not making any recommendations tonight. We do believe that we have to take a look at some metrics. We don't know where things are going, but we're not proposing a plan. We're not proposing a change. What we're doing is we have a few weeks left to try and make some decisions. We're looking at metrics this week, and this was never intended to be a plan. This is simply saying, here's the various sorts of input that have been given to us by different organizations that we'll have to cull through and try and make the best decisions that we can for all our students. That's all.
Thank you. Moving on to the facilities update. Maria Watkins could not be here this evening due to a family obligation. I think, sorry.
I can speak to this if you like.
Carl is here. I don't, if there are any questions on this, I do want to just point out a little bit about the part of this update speaks to another item on the agenda, which has to do with waiver of the bid policy. And you'll see in this updates here that we are looking to install new filtration systems in the high school and also, what was the other school that we needed?
I'm looking now.
Was it? Is it just the high school? Okay, thank you. All right, so what has happened is that the MCL, the maximum contaminant level for arsenic, has been lowered due to new data. And analytical techniques. And so we do not now meet the standard in the high school, which means that we have to improve our filtration system for the high school. In order to do that, we're going to have to get a company to come in and do a new filtration system in the high school. So you'll notice later on that we're looking to waive the bid policy. I did speak to Carl and Maria about this and the superintendent before the meeting, and I feel that it would be prudent to waive the bid policy in this case so that we can get this taken care of. We currently use Penachuk for our water filtration systems and maintenance of our systems. We are on our own well currently. So they would be the ones that would be able to provide this most quickly and effectively for us, and they also maintain our water filtration systems. So that is probably one of the most important points in this, in terms of the facilities update. So Steve, then Sheila?
Is there a timeline to be compliant for this? Okay, thank you.
Sheila?
I'd like to make a motion to waive bid policy DJE in regards to Penachuk water.
Hang on a second, let me find policy.
To exceed $10,000, we'll waive the policy.
Right, so you're going to make a motion to waive the bid policy. Basically, you're going to make a motion to waive the bid policy for water, for the
right.
Policy
DJE in regards to the Penachuk Water Company.
A second.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, Barbara?
I just want to make sure that the amount that they're charging is usual and customary.
Barbara wants to make sure the amount is usual and customary for this type of system.
Please.
You will get another quote, but we're just looking to waive that bid policy.
How does one spell Penachuk?
It's right. It's PENNICHUCK. All in favor of waiving the bid policy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Another item, and this pertains to noticing the board.
I'm sorry, I was opposed to that.
You were opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. 1 opposed.
Kelly's here now, so there's one more, right?
Oh, 6. 6, 1. Sorry, don't apologize. I lost time.
I'm sorry.
Okay. No. It's okay. So 6-1. 6-1. I would like to publicly notice that we will be looking to waive the policy for another project, facilities project, and we'll just bring it up now. Again, I've spoken to Carl, and Mark Fournier is still helping us in the consulting phase. They are looking, and it's mentioned here in the packet, to, and Carl, do you want to speak to this? To have, I'm looking for where this is in the packet, to
Carl Linsby, Director of Plant Operations. Upon my arrival here, this district is very large, as everybody knows here. I would like to get an assessment from what's called a Facilities Condition Assessment, conducted by a company called Dude Solutions. We already use Dude Solutions for our preventive maintenance and our maintenance requests programming at the district. What they will come and do is they will do a complete inspection of all our facilities, all our HVAC systems, all our roofs, all our parking lots, anything, vehicles, equipment that we use, and get a condition assessment of everything there, and then populate that information into our preventive maintenance plan and also into our capital forecasting plan, so we can come forth with data-driven decisions on what we need to do as far as going forward with what we have.
So the reason I'm noticing that we will be looking to waive the bid policy on this. By policy, we go out to bid if it's over $10,000. We already use Dude Systems to track all our preventative maintenance and maintenance within the district. This would have them come in, as Carl said, and do a district-wide facility condition assessment and preventive maintenance population. Right now, we don't have an accurate determination as to when preventative maintenance needs to be done on all our large equipment within the district, which is something that we've been trying to drive to. So this cost is going to be upwards of $50,000 to $60,000. $63,000. So we will notice this publicly that we're looking to waive, but this is a public notice also that I'll be looking for action on this next time. So Steve.
Yeah, so just my concern about waiving the bid policy in that I guess I don't understand what the harm of having this go out to bid unless it's action that needs to happen really quickly. I feel like a bid policy, right, is to help keep the tax dollars that we're spending in the right way, right? And I feel like if there's a company, even though we use a specific company, if there's a company out there that's going to be able to do the same work, that comes in a little bit lower, I feel like we shouldn't dismiss that process.
And can I speak to that?
Yeah, please.
So we could have other companies come in and do the condition assessment, but they wouldn't be able to populate the information into the school dude proprietary equipment. So we would have to hire a school dude to then come populate other people's items into the stuff.
So that makes a little bit more sense.
That's the only reason why. I mean, we could look to switch from school dude, but it would be a major overhaul that you know, and everybody's already trained on school dude in the district. It's just.
Thank you. No, that makes sense. Thank you. I appreciate it.
School dude is actually nationally known, and the significant majority of school districts in the state use it as a product and found it, quite successful. So
yeah.
we're basically building on the platform that we have, and in that way it'll save us the money.
No, I appreciate that. That all actually makes sense.
And I do want to say that I'm sorry I called it school dude. It used to be school dude, but they've expanded to do other companies down there now called Dude Solutions. So that's the interchangeable names.
Thank you for that.
So this will be coming up next meeting?
This will be coming up next meeting. Typically, you can waive policy by a majority of the board, but typically you should notice that you are going to waive policy. Through discussions with the administration, I felt that we should waive the policy for the arsenic removal so that we can get that treatment system before school starts, but I do not see that this is a critical thing, so I'd rather notice everybody that we will be looking to waive that policy next time.
Just another question for clarification. Typically, how long does the bid process take? Does that significantly delay the work?
You'd go out to bid, you'd give companies 2 to 3 weeks to respond to the bid, you do a walkthrough, show them what we're dealing with, and then give them another couple of weeks to put forth their proposal. So it's a month and a half, 2 months, usually before a bid comes back with any real clarity.
Okay,
thank you. You've also got to develop the RFP before you go out to bid.
Right, yeah, that takes some time.
And you want it back in time for budget season.
Okay.
Barbara. I have another question on facilities. There's an item that says awaiting decision on social distancing before we empty the storage trailers. I think it's here on us.
Yes, I saw that. I think we have the answer on social distancing is 3 feet.
I've attempted to empty some of the trailers. Some of them are emptied, and other schools are asking that they keep them just for now, just to make sure that they have room, because they wanted to keep space for as much space as possible. So I'm allowing them to keep it for another couple months. Okay. And just trying to keep the principals happy at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right. Status updates. A question came up from a board member. Thank you, Sheila, for reminding us. The bus and food service contracts are currently at the end of their lifetime, so they will need to be negotiated. So that work is underway, Mr. Kell?
Yes, absolutely. They actually, both bus contracts are beyond their lifetime. And we are in 1-year extensions in each of the bus contracts, one being with First Student for in-district large bus transportation, and the other being for both in and out-of-district transportation for special education. And both of those contracts allow for 2-year extensions, and we are in the first year of an extension for each of those and have only committed so far to a 1-year extension in each of those.
Okay, so we're really in the 4th year. We had a 3 plus 1 plus 1.
The first student one is a 3 plus 1 plus 1. Durham is a 5 plus 1 plus 1.
So with the first student, we're in year 4.
We're in year 4.
In Durham, are we in year 6?
Correct. With it each being an extension year, we have the option to extend for another year, or look to develop an RFP and go out to bid this year for next year.
Okay, so we'll be looking for you to come back with that.
I can tell you that most districts are finding that if they had to go to bid in the last couple of years, the prices have increased significantly, and
Yes.
the vast majority of districts are doing
Holding on.
exactly what Ms.
Okay.
Cowan just described.
So we probably will not be looking to go out to bid for another year. Okay.
Probably not.
Probably not.
In
We
transportation.
need to put it in our calendar next year, that we have to go out to bid.
Well, we have to decide if we're going to exercise those extensions for sure for the second year.
Mhm.
If we're going to wait until next year to go out to bid, which I think we feel most comfortable with for a couple of reasons. One being what Dr. Cochran just pointed out. The other being, in my experience with going out to bid for transportation contracts, in reality, when a transportation contract comes up for bid, if there is going to be any other or if there are going to be any other viable bidders other than the current contract holder, really what they do is it's more like a takeover than anything. If somebody comes in and takes the bid away from the current contract provider, what they really do is they come in and they pretty much buy they either buy or take over the lease of their location. They essentially take over their employees, and that really takes a couple of years for a provider, for transportation companies of any size, because they have to secure the capital first. There are a number of things that I don't pretend to know fully, but my experience has been that it's really a 2-year process if you want to give legitimate opportunity for other companies to bid on that contract. So that along with
this year.
we were.
This was our last year of extension.
No, we do have until 2023, June of 2023. Both extensions would expire.
Well, I guess the question would be is, financially, does it make sense to, if the rates are continuing to go up, does it make sense to try to lock something down now while the rates are where they are, or does it make sense to hold this off for 2 more years and potentially pay more long term?
I'd have to dig deeper into the contracts to find out whether or not you can extend beyond. Mr. Boyle might know. He might have been part of those negotiations.
Well, it's not that I know, but here's what I do know. When we awarded that contract last time around, we found out that was the only show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. I did not know that until I got in the school board. You look at a very large contract, like a school bus contract, and then that's what you get as first student. So,
typically,
Chris is saying, though, which is a valid point, is that if we do want to go out to bid, we should start now, even if we exercise the year, because that gives somebody 2 years to change over.
we could exercise the second
exercise the
extension.
second year, but put the bid out now.
Put the bid out now. It takes 2 years.
You disagree, Brian?
I think it's a bad idea, but I think that's what we found out last time was.
I know, but we didn't give it enough time last time.
It could be.
We put it out.
It could be, but I didn't realize it first.
I don't think it would hurt to put it out to bid, to exercise the next year option and also put it out to bid.
Right. There are a couple of factors that come into play here. One, First Student has been for sale for a number of years now. They've been looking. They are the work.
Is that an ad or?
No, we don't want to buy it. My last district did say, "Hey, Chris, couldn't we just provide transportation ourselves? Can you do that?" No, thank you.
Yeah.
The North American division of First Student has been up for sale for at least 2 years that I'm aware of. I don't know where it stands now. I don't believe any purchase has been made. Like many other companies, they've been losing revenues over the last couple of years at an incredible rate. Durham has expressed interest. that they would be interested in making a bid for the in-district big bus route as well. I've also asked in the past whether or not First Student would be looking to sell off pieces of the company. Would they look to sell just individual locations? And the answer that I got was most likely. So this could be an opportunity that Durham does look to bid, and it could be a realistic opportunity where we actually have more than just First Student, which we had the same experience in my last school district that nobody could really compete.
If I recall correctly, that bus contract, we were able to get better terms because we went as an aggregate with us and Hampstead. And I know that our recent separation at the SAU level has taken place, but I would think that people could put away their put aside their feelings to get better pricing from both parties. So that I would think it would be advantageous for us to reach out to Hampstead and get their thoughts on what it is, and we go together as one buying power.
I'm sorry, we did not go out together last time. Hampstead ended up going out by themselves, but First Student gave us the discount regardless. We did not go out with Hampstead.
That was supposed to be the intent, and I do agree.
It was supposed to be the intent, but it didn't happen.
No, I know it didn't happen, but at the end point is that we got better terms because Hampstead was with us. So
I'm not against reaching out to Hampstead either, if you want to try that. So.
I talked to the superintendent this morning. We met for the first time, and we discussed actually some possible collaboration on busing in terms of district students.
Okay. Well, see if they are interested.
Food service. That was the other one I was questioning.
Well, food service, we have another +1.
We are in a 1-year extension with food service. So that would be something that we would certainly need to develop an RFP for moving forward.
The First Student parent company is Scottish in registry and history, and in talking to someone who's a former CEO of First Student USA, has indicated that they're looking to divest themselves to some extent, and that's what's driving this.
So do we need a motion for the buses or okay?
No, I think we're just coming to some discussion about looking at possibly going out to extend the year, and then so feel free to come back when you have more information if you need more action on it.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. The next item on the agenda is a soccer club, booster club sign sponsorship. Hang on here. And is Mr. Fantasia here? Is somebody here?
He's available by phone, and he's out there in the ether in case we need it.
Well, my question, so the soccer boosters wanted to be on the agenda for sign sponsorships.
Right.
And they're going to charge $400 for a sign, and they want to raise up to $2,000.
Right.
Is this something that we have allowed other boosters to do,
Yes.
and are we opening up a door? We have done this?
Yes, we did it in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
And
We do it for softball, we do it
So
for
there's no
soccer,
issue
we
with
do
that?
it for
No.
football.
Okay.
They all
So-
sell sponsorships.
So they're looking for a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Jill makes the motion, Kelly seconds. All in favor? We had 7-0. Okay, good. The next thing is,
Items 2 and 3 basically are the spending of that funding on 2 camera systems. So the 3 do line up perfectly.
okay, so they're also looking for us to accept a donation of a Trace camera for Sockers with an annual subscription of $4,600, with the understanding they would continue to fund that because there's an annual funding cost.
Correct.
And so I'm looking for a motion to accept that donation.
I'll make a motion to accept a donation of a trace tracking camera, as well as Soccer to be handling the subscription of, the annual subscription of $4,600.
Sheila makes the motion, Kelly seconds. All in favor? Thank you. And thank you to the Soccer Booster Club for all their efforts. Having been a field hockey mom, I know that booster clubs do a lot of work on the side and really support the student athletes and make the experience that much better.
And I aired on the third one, it is the football boosters.
Oh, yes, I see that. That's why I wanted it, that's why I held it separately. And then now our football boosters are looking to donate to purchase a new end zone camera. So I'm looking for a motion to accept that donation.
So made.
Sean makes a motion. Second. Kelly seconds. All in favor?
Well, I just had one question.
Oh, go ahead.
So we're talking about cameras on the field. Is there any reason they can't share the soccer one, or it's just not feasible?
The soccer isn't played on the football field.
The boosters take these.
Okay, all right.
It doesn't come out of the budget, this comes out of, so they're two separate entities.
Okay. I just wondered if they could share.
No.
It also looks like there are two different type of cameras
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Barbara.
Okay.
The trace camera seems to be more individualized, where it looks like the end zone camera is stationary, if I'm reading that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The trace tracking basically is athletes wear sensors, and so their position in the field is tracked on a regular basis, and they can analyze the data to look at, positional play, those sorts of things. So it becomes after the game breakdown of positional play and things like that.
That was very snazzy. Okay, so the motion.
Okay, all in favor of the motion to accept the boosters, football boosters? 7-0, thank you. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is modular classrooms. This item was put on at request of several school board members. It's one of the school board's goals for the year is to try to get the modular classrooms moved. I don't know, I've had some discussion with Dr. Cochran about this. I know that there are some, I'd like the administration to speak to this, but before you do, I would like to point out that in the last 10 years, the enrollment in the high school has dropped by 400 students, and the enrollment in the middle school has dropped by 250 students. Can you just wait to say that until you're back so everybody can hear what you're talking
about? Based on the current schedule for 2021, and here's the actual room-by-room schedule. This is a summary of empty classrooms in semester 1 and semester 2 in the blocks 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A. Total classrooms at the high school in block 1A that are empty are shown in the column. Mod 3, so there's 2 modules. Each modular has 2 classrooms. One of the unique features of the modulars is that they each have a bathroom. It makes them very helpful in cases of in some cases special education programming and other things as well. There are some teachers who prefer to teach there because of the separation. And according to Sandy, if you'd like to speak about this as well, there are some advantages. The feeling is that if you look at the relatively small number in cases of some blocks of rooms, the loss of the modulars would result in more teachers having to put their materials on carts and go from room to room, and fewer people would have dedicated classrooms. Sandy, do you want to add anything else? This is
Can I just ask a question, Sandy?
Sure.
Because this goes back to capital improvement, and I'm just thinking about my own institution.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have ceiling mounted projectors in the classrooms?
In some classrooms, not all.
Not all. So
Yeah.
when you're saying teachers are moving on carts, I'm trying to understand what it is they're moving around. Their laptops?
Materials, instructional materials, what they might need to, it could be textbooks for a certain class. I used to do it myself years ago, but
You could be moving from the front hallway where you're teaching French 1 to this 200 hallway math wing because there's an open classroom back there and that's where you're teaching French 3.
Okay.
So, but most teachers now have dedicated classrooms or share. It's a shared space, and then when they're not teaching in that room at that time, their roommate may have their class scheduled in there, but teachers do move around the building. They're not all teaching all of their classes in the same room at all times.
Okay. Do we have a classroom dedicated to the math lab?
We may not. I don't want to
okay,
say
sorry.
I don't have that information.
Okay.
And they've been working on making some potential changes, knowing that this may be coming.
Okay.
So I can't say with certainty. And last year during COVID, that room was used for a different function. So yeah, I'm not positive where they're at with that right now.
And didn't we have a classroom that the deans were in?
There is a shared office, yes. Yep.
So we have a classroom being used as an office.
Yes, yep. And it's a place where there's sometimes job-embedded PD, drop-in sessions where teachers come in and there's some coffee and conversation, we call it. There are administrative meetings in there. There's no location in the high school office space where the full admin team can fit other than that room to have meetings and things like that. So it's a multifunctional room, but yes, it is a classroom.
Does the school dude system or your system have a means to schedule a class? Like,
Not
if I said I wanted block 3 and I need a classroom, can I get online and pick a classroom?
You can do that in Power School. You can look to see what's available.
Okay. Just
Yep, we have that option, yes.
Okay. Other?
Yeah, I'm still really confused by this. So, I'm sorry, because I didn't do block scheduling when I was here, so you gotta remember I'm not.
Yep.
Teacher has all 4 blocks, or is one of these not?
Teachers teach 5 over the course of 2 days.
Right.
So,
okay.
and on the day
So
when
on
they
one
have
day
2, they
it
have
could
a
be 3,
duty.
the other day it could be 2.
It could be 2, but on the other day where there are 2, they would have a duty, and that duty could be a study hall. So,
okay.
right. So,
All right. So, I mean, there's one consistent room. Kim, I don't know if you saw this, but 612 is one consistent room. The
612 is typically a study hall room.
Yeah, what is
Yep.
612? That's a study hall?
Well, it has been for the past several years.
Okay.
I guess with that table that you have there, what's important to note is that there are multiple classrooms open in each block.
Right.
But the issue is that then the teachers, you're going to have to juggle students in classrooms.
Mm-hmm. I would point out, this is the first time I'm seeing this, so I apologize for not being prepared to speak to this.
I'm just...
That being said, I would just point out that many of these open rooms, because you'll see, study halls are not scheduled on this right now, so where you are seeing rooms that don't have classes, those locations may be used for other purposes. The other thing to keep in mind is that when a room might be open, if it is a science classroom, there may be labs that are there operating. It could be a computer room or an IT room and a technology room that has computers. Not all classrooms are configured in the same way to support best instructional practices in all content areas.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
So there are a lot of moving pieces to this. But, so I can't say with certainty how many rooms per period will be taken up by study halls. So some periods have higher numbers, or others are lower. First period, last period, because juniors and seniors can typically have the privilege of coming in late, going home early. We have lower numbers of study halls during those. So there are a lot of things that fluctuate, but a lot of moving parts to scheduling at high school.
I have a question in regards to the modulars. All these modulars, they don't have anything next to them. Are they being utilized?
The mods, so the last I spoke to the high school team when we became aware of this, they were fully scheduled. There were 25 classrooms operating, classes I should say, operating across those 4 modular classrooms, 2 mods, 2 classrooms in each one. There were 25 class periods were fully scheduled as of a week ago. But as I said, that team has been trying to be proactive, knowing that this was a topic of conversation for the board meeting. So they're looking at a lot of different scenarios to try to make this work should the will of the board be that the mods will no longer be an option for classroom space.
Well, I'll just come right out now with it. Is there any issues that anybody sees with some of the high school students taking access to some of these classrooms that are empty at the middle school? Especially some of these classes that we know that only have 2, 1, 3 students in it.
Is this list showing middle school classrooms that are open too? I thought this is just high school classrooms that are open.
Okay.
So I guess then the next question becomes, Sandy or superintendent over there, we went from 4 teams to 3 teams in the middle school.
We did.
How could we not have open classrooms?
So in the past, so there are a variety of reasons, but one is that in the past, when we had larger numbers of teams at each grade level, several of our unified arts teachers, world language, for example, I'll speak to that because I know that with certainty, they did not have dedicated classroom space. So when teachers of language arts, for example, had their block off or prep period, could have been a duty period elsewhere, world language teachers would be teaching in those classrooms. So when teams downsized, it freed up classroom space for many of those teachers who had not previously had dedicated classrooms to use those spaces.
Okay.
Yep. But there are some open classrooms periodically. I would not think it would be advisable for a variety of reasons to have a high school class walking down the path and having a class in our 6th grade hallway. So the middle school is configured in a certain way to have 6th grade section, 7th grade, 8th grade. Developmentally, there would be some things that would come up. That would be a much larger conversation that I think we would want to involve the middle school administrative team in and get some better feedback and insight into pros and cons.
Sheila?
I just want to make something really clear. This was not something that we dreamed up last week and said, we're going to get rid of the mods. This has been going on for years.
I agree.
This has been on our radar for at least the 3 years I've been on this board. This is nothing new. So I struggle, very much so I struggle, because those things have been here since what, 2008, 2000?
I'm not sure.
6 maybe? They were here when my daughter graduated in 2012, because she was in there. So, but this is nothing that many of the members on this board has been here for a while, haven't approached before. And we just keep seeming to hit roadblocks. But there's a lot of rooms here open. And I guess my next question is, are our scheduling of classes done yet?
Yes.
Okay. So we have...
Here's the 20
okay.
pages.
So that's a schedule of classes for semester 1, correct?
I apologize. I'm not sure what he is looking. I'm not.
It's from Mr. Peterson. It says Timberlake Regional High School in 21-22 school year.
Yeah, the schedule.
Master schedule, room by room.
So, Mrs. Lewis, the schedule is typically developed. The beginning of the schedule is usually developed, and we get course requests in March.
Right.
We start to determine how many sections of the course we need to run at the high school.
Yep.
The guidance, you know the process.
I know.
Typically, before students leave, we have a preliminary schedule. Throughout the summer, there might be some tweaks. August, our guidance counselors come back several days before teachers do to make final determinations. But those buildings and the classes that will run in those classrooms are pretty much set in April, May.
Okay. So I guess what I am asking now is, how many of these classes that we have set have 3, 4, 5 students in them?
I can look into. I don't have that information in front of me, but we can look at that. But
When
very
you
few.
say to me that we have a full boat of kids in those mods, full classes, that's 20 kids in a class to me, full classes in the modulars, and I have classes running in here with 3 kids in them. And those modulars are the pits. So, when we're talking inequality and all this stuff, and we still get kids in these mods. So I'm having difficulty saying to being truthfully.
So we'd be happy to bring you a report of average class size or class sizes. We've done that every year.
Right.
For the past several years. We can do that. I don't have that information right now.
But that's
I can tell you that a concerted effort, you're right, we have had these conversations. But not having that in front of me, I can't answer that question.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to
No, I understand. Absolutely.
I'm coming from.
Yeah, right.
Because, when I have 20 kids in a modular, and I have 3 kids in this class over here, it's not right to me.
And I'm not saying that it's impossible, right, to get rid of the mods. We can look into that. Okay. Timing is everything.
Right.
And because the classes were scheduled in those rooms, and it's several weeks before students arrive, it's challenging to make those changes. It's not impossible, so they've already started to look at that. We're willing to work on
I'm
this.
honestly not trying to give you a hard time.
Oh, I don't think you are, nor do I think
Yeah,
that you are.
We've all, we realize no one's trying to give each other a hard time. So let's just move on so that Barbara and then Kelly can go. So
I was just wondering if the modules are going to come in handy for the COVID, if we need that when we're creating more distance, or we just didn't use those for that purpose?
I don't. I mean, a classroom is a classroom. It's more a question of logistics of teachers moving versus not moving instead of spacing. In my mind, that's not going to affect spacing in classrooms. It's affecting how teachers have to.
What about some of these courses that are offered that, we know that we're only having a small number of students? What if we take an existing classroom and break it up into sub-classrooms inside there with not, with dividers and stuff?
I don't disagree with that premise, but we don't have that information in front of us on class size. This is the first time we've had a discussion publicly, and the board has been on the radar for quite a while about trying to get rid of these mods. So there are a couple things that need to happen. Is one, we need to, moving forward, be looking at more cognizantly at our class sizes, because clearly we've dropped 600 students, but we're still using modular classrooms, which tells me, and I can understand now we don't have as many teachers sharing, but there's got to be something going on with the number of class offerings. So I agree, Sean, we need to look at that, and Sheila, we need to look at that. And Kelly, what's your...
Oh, I was just going to say that I don't have any of this context, and I was going to ask what the problem with the mods were, but I guess Sheila's sort of alluded to some of it, just that they're old and not great. But it sounds like, Sandy, a lot of the teachers like to teach in those spaces?
I don't want to speak for them, but we've had teachers who have been in those mods for several years in a row and
have no
complaints that I'm aware of. But again, I don't want to speak for them.
But modular classrooms are
Yeah.
not supposed to be
Right.
permanent
Yes.
fixtures.
No, I understand that. I just,
yeah. So that's the issue.
I just
And,
wasn't sure if
you
there was
know,
a more glaring issue besides the issue.
Usually
the fact that they're approaching.
temporary solution to a permanent problem.
Well, they're at least 10 to 15 years old. We just had to replace the decks. I see on the CIP that we're looking at replacing carpeting. They leak like a sieve. The amount of energy that those things use is just astronomical. They're really not as winterized. So, and I don't know what the HVAC system in there is, if any. Carl, do you know? Is there any? Yeah, I don't think there's an HVAC system. So that's Steve.
I'm just thinking realistically, listening to what Sandy said regarding the schedule, would it make sense to look at this process and say, if the schedule is sort of drafted by April, then could we go into next year before you draft a schedule in April to eliminate this process as a whole, but keep it intact at least for this school year? And that way it's sort of seamless, right? I mean, you go into the planning phase knowing that that's not an option, and it helps your planning aspects versus having to be reactive right now and change everything 3 weeks before kids come back to school.
I'd like to split that in the middle and go with January. Give them some time to figure out how this is going to get reconstructed, and possibly, if you don't do it, and come to the board with that, what is the plan? Like, let's give you several months so you can get up to school. And then also, at the same time or even before that, we would like to see the list of
We can
the
bring
number
that.
of classes and the number of students, so we can have a better idea, and you can have a better idea of.
We can do that for the next
We've
meeting.
been, Sandy, we've been here before. I know Mr. Kellen and Dr. Cochran are new, but we go back and forth every year about number of classes, number of students, and then now we're at just adding the mods. But this is something that the board has been wanting to kind of get a handle on, is class sizes at the high school especially, and why we continue to use modulars when, as I said, we're down 22% students from when they were put in. So,
And the administration is more than willing to work on that. I think the timing is key, so absolutely.
so would the board be agreeable to having them come back? And Kat, could you please put that as an agenda and send that to Michelle, who's our new, that you come back
Sure.
October, November,
Yeah.
with something reasonable, and say, can you make this happen in January? And if not, why not? Because you're going to have to make it happen next year.
So
Is that okay? People agreeable to? I know we want to cut the Band-Aid and get rid of them now, but
We want to cut the Band-Aid.
I understand that, but now we're what's the
Yeah,
school?
I mean, it's.
What's that?
What's the first day of school?
First day of school is
The
August
30th.
30th.
August 30th.
So, Sandy, when you say you have the schedule sort of drafted, is that for the full year? So I will.
It is, yeah. So we have several semester courses at the high school, but predominantly year-long courses. But we do have midterms, end of January, semester change, new classes start for many students, not all, but some are year-long.
So that's why I suggested possibly January, because that gives you the, it gives you a break, and students are changing their schedule anyway. I mean, another reason to move the mods is it opens up, I don't know how many parking spaces that would open up. But parking has always been an issue, and it opens up some more parking, which then relieves the traffic congestion, so.
Could have a special school board lottery for those parking spots.
That's right.
Is there a revenue, like, could these modules be sold? What do you do with these after? I don't know, that's relevant to this conversation.
My guess is somebody will take them, but I don't think you're gonna get any money for them, but
I
you'll probably get somebody to take them.
had asked our new facilities person to inquire, and it was based on a previous school board where the cost to the estimated cost to have the portables taken away matched the original cost to purchase the core portables 15 years before that. So it just,
So I did get a
I
final
asked them
cost
to check.
today. I got a final cost today. If we wanted to keep them and move them out and use them for storage, they'd charge us about $50,000 to do that. Plus, we had to pay to get the electricity and the plumbing and everything disconnected from other sources. If Schiavi Leasing was to take them and just take them away, they'd probably use them someplace else. They'd do it for free. I just have to pay for the disconnection fees and everything like that. So I did get a cost. You're not going to sell them.
No.
They'd come and get them for no cost, but if we wanted to keep them and try to use them someplace else for storage, they want to charge us $50,000. So.
Carl, with all the other stuff you've had going on in the last, I think, 4 days since you and I talked, I'm amazed that you were able to get that information. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
And there's no monthly cost for these, there's no annual cost, we own them,
We own them.
so essentially, we'll pay to get rid of them, but there's no charge.
It's
We
free.
pay to move them, but getting rid of them.
Yeah.
Not quite free. Do we have those, are those mods metered separately? Because when we say they're free, we know, I know, because a lot of electricity on them, so I just be more curiosity so that we don't keep saying they're free because they're costing us a lot of energy. If you could find out if they're metered, that'd be interesting.
No, I agree, the utility costs on those are not the best.
Astronomical.
Agreed.
So is the board okay about them coming back? This is not going away. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so don't go too far. Don't go too far because the CIA is up next. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, and this is an action item, this has been discussed as part of the reorganization, is, and we asked the superintendent to discuss this with the TTA, is that we were, in the absence of the deans, we're looking to create 12 stipended positions, with the acronym CIA.
Which I think is real cool.
I thought that was really cool.
CIA specialist is a cool
CIA
job.
specialist, curriculum instruction and assessment content specialist, and so they'll come from the middle and high school ranks. There'll be 6 at the middle school, 6 at the high school. In my mind, they almost are, in essence, department chair people of their respective disciplines, or I guess they're disciplines in the middle school too. So are there questions on this? This is going to require an action because this is obviously a monetary sort of position. Dr. Cochran?
I can tell you that we contacted the TTA leadership about this, let them know what the intent was. They took it to the executive board, came back with a very good set of questions and asked for some clarification in some areas. We responded to those, and the latest correspondence from TTA is that, and quote, at this time we have no objections with those positions moving forward to the board level. So.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
I just had a question. So unless I'm not saying this right, so these people are going to be carrying a full teacher load?
This, my understanding is this work is all done after school and on top of the regular teaching load. So this isn't a release of time or teaching load. It's on top of, which is why the stipends are there.
Oh, I understand. I'm just confirming. So these are teachers carrying full teaching load, and then these are additional duties, and that's what the stipends are being offered about.
Yes. There would be a significant amount of meetings after the school day.
Okay. Thanks.
Any further discussions? If not, I'm seeking a motion to approve this, these stipends for the CIA specialists.
So moved.
Sean makes the motion, Steve seconds. All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. Moving on, so we've already discussed the waiver of bid policy. There's a fund transfer request in here. And in keeping with our hope to get job descriptions for all positions, you will know, thank you, that the job descriptions for these people are in here also. The next item on the agenda is a budget transfer request. Again, Maria's not here, but I did speak to her about this. She is looking for new members. The business office can transfer funds from one line to another if it's under $25,000. If the transfer more than $25,000, it requires board approval. So they're looking to move the 100, 1,100 lines are salary lines. As some of us are aware, the voted budget had salaries in there for teachers that we no longer have. The PLUS program was voted in the budget, but it's not there. So this is coming out of those lines. So she's looking to move it into the 2620 line, which is a maintenance line. That's the water filtration. The next one is on food service allowance. There have been outstanding balances, and older board members, not old as an age, but senior board members, those have been here a long time.
Tired board members.
There are students that we have to continue to provide lunch to students even if they fail to bring their money, which we do. And the auditors have pointed out that there are some very, very old balances, many years back, that we're still carrying on our books. And they have recommended that we do an adjustment within our own budgeting to bring these balances off. This is not the entire balance, it's $46,000. This is balances that are several years old. And there's no, for those that are on the board, we had cases where we had people running several $1,000s. I did talk to Maria, there's like 40 pages of little balances, like $8, $10. These are not, like, this is not one person owing a lot of money. So the auditors are requesting that we try to take care of this from an accounting point of view and move the money so we can get that off the books, because it's still being carried as a, what's the word?
Liability.
Like a and it's just, it's never going away, so it makes the books seem kind of, but there's still at least another 25 to 30,000 that's more current that is going to stay, that we need to try to gather from people. Kelly?
I just had a question about the first one, the water filtration. Is that separate and above so that's, I'm assuming, not the high school filtration that we need to?
Well, what this is just asking to transfer additional funds because the cost of that system
so it is for that.
above.
Okay.
And we're early in the budget year, so we don't want to expend that line all the way down. If that's, I don't know exactly what that sub-function code is, but that's why. That's not the entire cost, that's just we're just looking to transfer. Sean?
Yeah, Kevin, I was going to say that the next one, 46,000 to transfer to the food service. I understand that this is just an accounting for the auditors. What this is you're taking 46,000 in one line, and what you're doing is you're moving it to the food service line. It is not being, we've already paid the vendor years ago for this. What this is doing is you're basically taking 46,000 in your left hand and handing it to your right hand and put it in your pocket. At the end of the day, the 46,000 still remains under the person's control. In this case, it'd be Timberland's control.
It's just an accounting thing because it just keeps showing up.
It's a transaction, really.
Yeah. All right, so we, if everybody's...
All right, I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the budget transfers in the amount in account specified in the CFO Business Administrator's budget transfer request dated August 5th, 2021.
Second. Kelly gets a second. All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. There's the last thing on there. Dr. Cochran, before we go into the personnel report, do you have anything for an administrative report?
Only that we're pleased to receive a donation from the Atkinson Women's Club for the high school peer-to-peer program, and that donation was for $500, and at that number I was able to approve it, didn't have to go to the board. So thank you to the Atkinson Women's Club and the high school appreciation, and the students who will benefit from that money. So thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
Moving on to the personnel report, board members, we will do items 1, 3, and 4, and we'll go into a non-public for the administrative nominations. So the board is looking to nominate the following people for professional positions. I'll just read them through and then so we can make a motion. Emily Ballou, special ed teacher at Pollard Elementary. Jasmine Beltran, life science teacher at the high school. Jocelyn Dion, speech and language pathologist at Sandown North. Alyssa Gumet, school counselor at the high school. Susan Constantine, speech and language pathologist at the high school. Jessica Marone, ELA instructional coach at Atkinson. Nicole Palmer, grade 5 teacher in Danville. Diane Perry, Spanish teacher in the middle school. Courtney Pilcher, occupational therapy at the TLC in Sandown. Alexander Rochesky, grade 6 social studies. David Russell, high school math teacher. Laura Spingle, grade 3 teacher at the Pollard School. Looking to accept those nominations and also the renomination of Julie Blomberg, kindergarten teacher at Pollard.
So moved.
Sheila makes a motion, Steve seconds. All in favor? 7-0. Thank you for all those people that have been sitting on many interview committees, I think, to get all these people hired. It's a lot of work. Moving on to resignations, we have 3 resignations. Brooke Belmont, an occupational therapist. Erin Brewitt, grade 6 social studies teacher at the middle school. And Cammie Douglas, grade 1 teacher at Sandown North. Sheila?
So moved. With thanks and gratitude, and can I just say one other thing?
Yes.
Cammie Douglas, I will miss you, and I thank you for your 22 years of service.
Thank you. Is there a second on that motion? Second. Barbara makes a second. All in favor? Okay. 7-0. Any reports of the school board committee reports? Brian?
Could I just add, we have the super and the assistant superintendent here. we just went through all these nominations. If they could pretty much, someone could speak to where we are, you know, school a few weeks from now, and what you're looking at staffing-wise, so that people at home can watch. There's been some chatter on Facebook, and my gut tells me we're in better shape than social media tells us, so if someone could speak to that.
I would concur, but the busy young lady over there will be able to give us a little bit more detail. But yes, it's been a busy hiring season.
I think it's been a very busy. I know I keep signing contracts.
Yeah.
Right now, there are 25 postings for teachers, 30 for pupil services. There's about 28 for support staff. There's about 120 in all, but some of them are from the ESY program that have to come down. 14 are athletic. 24 are special ed. And some of the admin. The HR department has 2 people. We've been unable to find qualified people to work in the department. We're trying to get all the hiring through. That's our priority. And then the postings that have been filled will start to come down.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, just so I heard that right, we're doing hiring, but the postings aren't keeping up because we're focused on getting people in.
Right. We haven't been updating the website because they've been focusing on just processing all the new hire paperwork.
I just had a question for the budget committee. I thought there was something about the budget timeline that was going to be on the agenda.
There was something on the budget timeline because Maria couldn't be here this evening. I asked that it be taken off the agenda because it was hard to speak to in terms of budget if we don't have our CFO here. She does have the surplus number, and that will be ready with the backup financials for the next meeting so that we can vote on that. Barbara, 3 of the 4 towns have the information in for the MS-25, which is used to set the tax rate. Can you guess which town, as of the last time I talked, was missing? No.
Yeah. With their connections with one of the selectmen.
It's always Sandown, though. What happened?
No, it's not. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's only one town. 3 of the 4 towns have to be. That's important because the sooner this gets done, the sooner our numbers get into DRA. But there's no rush because they can't finish till we finish. So there's a 2-week window. The sooner this gets done, the sooner we get in the queue to get our tax rates set, which means the tax collectors can get their bills out sooner to give people more time to pay.
So do you want me to contact the sheriff?
No, we're good because we won't make a decision on the surplus for another 2 weeks.
Okay.
But I would recommend, though, that we send a courtesy to remind them so that...
Because as soon as we set it, then everything can go forward. Yeah, so...
I'm glad to see that we got 3 of the 4 actually done by this time. That's actually positive.
It's always us.
I'm sure Maria's all over it.
Yeah.
And she is. She is on top of that, man. I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised. I was very happy to see that come in.
Right. And it wouldn't come in. I'll discuss this in a non-public session about what the issue was. And the other thing is, we would like to get a joint meeting between the budget committee and school board at some point early in the budget season so that maybe we can come to an agreement on a budget number that we would like the business office to work towards, as opposed to what's been done in the past where a budget comes in and then we try to cut it back. You know, for those that have been on the board, usually the budget comes in at, 78, and it gets cut by $4 million. Why don't we start with, this is where we'd like to see the budget, what is going to have to be cut to get to this number, and what's going to have to happen if we cut to that number, what are we going to lose? Maybe we do need to adjust the number. It seems to be a better way to budget. So, hoping to do that. Okay. So we need to enter a non-public under 91A:3, paragraph 2. section A and C.
So made.
Second.
Okay, Kathy, would you take a roll call on that, please?
Ms. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Dr. Farah?
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan?
Yes.
Mrs. Buska?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Are we planning to come back after?
Let me ask, Dr. Cochran, do you anticipate that I'm going to publicly announce these tonight or not?
We can, actually, probably not.
Okay.
We'll have to.
So I don't anticipate that we'll come back into